Hey everyone, John Doyle from Optics EQ. Today, what I'm going to do something a little different. I want to be a little bit part tutorial on OptixNOTES and part handicap and using an actual race for Wednesday at Churchill Downs. So I think it'll be good to actually talk a little bit about notes and what it is, and then actually see it in action. So the first thing is, what is OptixNOTES? Well, it's our way of visually kind of interpreting a horse's performance. You notice the word interpretive. We're not there to just describe the performance. Sometimes when you see in charts, and there's nothing wrong with the chart guys, they do their job and they do it well, but it's different than what we're trying to do. They're trying to describe the events as they happened. What we're trying to do is interpret it. So for instance, when they say the horse is 3 wide, 4 wide, we're trying to say, is that good or bad, right? A horse gets into trouble. What degree of trouble? Did the trouble actually cost him the race or not? So we're taking that information based on our knowledge, based on the horse's current form cycle, suitability to surface and distance, and trying to figure it out. And that's what we do. And our rating system works because we've tested it. We use a consistent process and a common language for our keywords. And we've built an effective analytical tool that'll help you assess the horse's form cycle, which is so important. And because it's subtle, I've used people seeing kind of things that we've done with green reports and stuff. We pick up on things that are not easy to pick up on in terms of a horse's form cycle. So that's what we do. And we're going to get into a little bit here. I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to use race 10 at Churchill. Before I even start that, if you want to look for more information about OptixNOTES, you go to our website. You see the info up here. You just click it. You go down to notes. You click that, and there's a quick reference guide, user's guide, FAQs, keywords, everything. So it's a great source of information if you get stuck on something. So let's go to race 10. And the first thing I did is I looked at the plot of the race, and I was a little, confused because first of all, it's a red plot fit. That's the first thing. But more importantly, I got horses that haven't run at today's surface and distance. I have run styles that are NAS downs. You see only 5 horses would really establish run styles. So it's kind of messy. And so I want to really look at the form first. And what I do in these situations, people always ask, what do you do? I'll come back to the plot after I'm done with my form cycle analysis. And I just want to make sure I either upgrade or downgrade a horse. So if I look at somebody that looked good on the form and I'm like looking at the plot, I'm like, ooh, I may be less enthusiastic. So that's what I do. Okay, so let's go to the form here for this race. We're going to start off. The first thing I want to point out is the optics fig range for today's race. It is a 73 to 79. And all that means is kind of that's the range where we think this race might end up in terms of final speed figure. And that's important because relatively speaking, I want to look at horses to see if they're going to either project into that range or not. So when I look at number 1, Risky Choice, this horse fails, right? I mean, this really looks slow compared to the figures that need to win this race. This horse has been running out of state where the races aren't as competitive. You can see the purse for last race versus this race. The notes projection for this horse was drop. Okay, he's not getting a drop. He's going up in class. So lots of negatives there. So this is a horse that I'm really pretty confidently I'm going to toss in this situation. Okay. The number 2, Ranseur, another horse that's kind of been out of state running. And again, so this is a class upgrade. Horse did make a major improvement going from 1 turn to 2 turns. Seemed to like it. Notice the notes projection of turf, that we think this horse will be better once it makes the switch to grass. And that's what he was scheduled to run on last time, and he didn't. And that's the other thing that makes kind of we wonder about the race he's coming out of, because when they when they take the race off the turf, you're kind of left with either horses that kind of get on. I guess some of the MTOs might be all right, but you get some grass runners in there, not really suited for the distance. So those quality, those fields are usually last. The one thing I will say from a jockey perspective, looks like he gets the top jockey here, which is kind of an interesting, because I know Gaffleon was on somebody else, I think, last time. So yeah, he was on the 6. So that's kind of an interesting jockey move, I thought. But anyway, still not a horse that it's got a lot to overcome, I would say, to be frank. The number 3, this horse is a little bit interesting. Again, another horse moving way up, but unlike some of these others, this horse ran a winning race, even though he finished second. Winning race, why I say that? Because of the B OptixNOTES grade. Got the highest Optics Fig too. Now, the big problem is this horse is obviously moving up in class, but also stretching out. So there's a lot of unknowns here, but a horse I just wouldn't go to sleep on. Let me just make a point on those grades. So people kind of look at the grades. I just want to tell you what they mean. Okay, so when you look at these OptixNOTES grades, okay, so an A minus, that's kind of flight line territory. American Pharaoh, those horses that can kind of consistently run that are very rare. B plus is a horse that's really jumped out of his skin, ran a big race, a race that's so impressive that we think, next time the horse runs, they can move up probably a class level or 2. A B is just a good, solid winning performance, and that's what you want here in this race. B minus and C pluses are kind of on your average. One's a little bit above, one's a little bit below. B minus is a little bit around hovering average, a little above. C plus a little below average, but average thing. C is a poor performance, and the horse either needs to change surface distance or the horse needs to drop in class or something, because that last performance says if this horse comes back, can't win at that level, right? And we have these colors have statistics behind them, analytics behind them. EX is a horse that had a noticeable excuse. Now, sometimes it's not noticeable. We're trying to be a little bit more subtle with the EX, but it's a great handicapping tool because you can kind of cross that race off and go back to, some races previously to get the horse's form. Sometimes that's hidden form, and that's just a great ability to have that information quickly and available to you. So that's the grades. And so again, just to come back to this horse, he ran a B plus. I mean a B. That's a winning effort, but there's some things here about this horse. But again, keep an eye on that horse, especially if the horse kind of floats up and there's a big price. Might be a good horse to include underneath. See how he comes out on the track. I haven't physically seen this horse in terms of, we haven't made any note that he looks like a router or anything like that, or a sprinter. So jury's still out on number 3. Number 4. This horse ran huge stretching out. So this horse got huge improvement stretching out. 18 optics points, still ran a C plus. Okay, does fit range wise. Okay, but is now coming right back in 13 days. So I don't know if this horse is going to regress or move forward, but there's nothing to say that either way from a notes perspective. I'm a little concerned with the quick turnaround in terms of time, and is there another kind of now move forward off a big move forward? So question marks there for me. The number 5 is a horse that's been on synthetic a lot, running at Presque Isle. Again, another horse moving up in class. Had chances and just can't even break like the 70 mark. I watched this horse, on the track. He did have some traffic and lacked room, but when you look at his other 2 races, he had a perfect trip 3 back, and just you see the comment here, plotty. He just doesn't have like a turn of foot. He's kind of a horse that just kind of grinds. So maybe if he could be in the clear, he could clunk up for 3rd or 4th, but this is not a horse I like to win this race at all. So we'll see how he does with the surface change. That is an unknown, but just the way he looks, the way he runs, he's more of a plotter, and underneath in the lower rungs of supers and tries is what I would suggest, if that. Winter's Lion, this is another horse coming out of the same race as the 4. Quick turnaround, looks very similar. Didn't have much of a jump from the debut to the last race, so a little bit better gradual kind of step up. So maybe this horse can hold his form a little bit better. But the thing about that race, this horse kind of like faded after pressing the pace. And the other thing is this is his 3rd jockey. And look, Luis Saez is a really good rider, top rider. It's just odd to see so many changes here in rider. I'm just wondering about that. But I guess a contender, but not the horse that I want to kind of focus on. I want to focus on the next horse from a notes perspective. And that's the number 7, Hunter's Drive. Okay, so now this horse starts his career off Ellis. And that's a pretty good level race for Ellis, on the turf sprinting, runs a C+, kind of an average, a little below average race, comes back, moves way up. Look at the purse on this race. I mean, the purses are high, Kentucky Dancer, but so is the racing. The quality's better. And this horse kind of was up forward close. I think the pace in that race was pretty fast, solid, and faded a little bit and stretched. So, I just think maybe these two races got him some fitness. And then he had a little bit of a break in racing, comes back, first time 2 turns, and improves. And I like this. Even despite being slow out of the gate and having traffic. And you could see this is a very important key word here for notes: improve. We think this horse is going to improve. And, you've just seen the numbers, the range. Any kind of improvement from that 75 would put this horse right there. And the horse is 10-1 in the morning line. I want to show you too, very important that when you see these little blue dots next to the horse, that's, we call that extended comments. And you want to click those or just hover over them. You can see what the note taker is trying to say here. So this was less than a comfy trip, right? So again, if you look at the chart, you might say, the horse was in traffic or something, but in this case, it really affected this horse's performance. He's bottled up in traffic throughout, had some pace, and he could be set up for a move forward. That stuff that projection stuff is not what you're going to see in descriptive kind of notes, trip notes. So we're expecting an improvement on this horse. And I think this horse at 10-1 is someone to really pay attention to. You want to be using this horse in all your exotics and in your multi-race wagers too. Just seems like he's got a legitimate chance. The number 8, I might as well finish off the field, but again, 7 is kind of the horse I like. The number 8, I think this horse might get bet a little bit. He's like 6-1, I think, or something, but I think he might get bet a little more because of the class. He's running the Bourbon, non-graded stakes. But you got those are his, those races were on, and the Bourbon was a good race, a grade 2, but that was on grass. This horse, if you look at his dirt races, I'm going to just click them here a little bit. So 75, 76, kind of established, like that's his ceiling on dirt, which isn't that good. And notice the other thing that really troubles me about this horse, and this is where, again, notes is just there, just in your face. Trouble in the start, very slow out of the gate, trouble at the start, slow out of the gate. You get the picture, right? I mean, this is not type of horse you want to be, leaning on to bring you home to pick 5 or pick 6 at the end of the day. Now, he is a deep closer. He can pick up some pieces, but again, another horse I want no part of in the win end, especially at what I think is not going to be a great price. Even if he's in the 5 to 6 range, I think that's a poor price on this horse. Let's go to the number 9. This horse is okay. There's no knocks on this horse. He's run well, gets a little bit of a freshening. I shouldn't say there's no knocks. There are a couple of knocks. The thing about this horse is he just kind of faded in every. Well, I guess he didn't really fade too badly in Shoeback, but it just seems like has some early pace, and then he fades, gets a deep post. But he's competitive on numbers. Not a horse you want to toss, maybe as a backup, maybe include him. I just, I prefer the 7 in this race over him, but I can understand he's going to probably be the favorite in this race or second choice. So I'm just not crazy about that. The number 10, this horse, could improve. This is one of those horses sprinted in the debut, closed a little bit. Just not sure about the connections that much at all, but this is a horse that probably can improve. Now, he wasn't bet either in the debut, so that always worries me. So get a look at him on the track. There's no optics notes here that says, hey, he's going to be a lot better. It's not obvious, at least, that he's going to be a lot better with 2 turns. But, he could improve. And then finally, the 11, to me, this horse is just a toss. I mean, just if you look at his grades, if you look at his figures, He's already lost below today's level again, like some of these others. So, to me, even though it's McPeak and Hernandez, which is a good combination, even with improvement, this horse has got a long way to go to kind of get to this range to win this race. So, that's my assessment using notes. Hopefully that was helpful. The other thing I want to tell you too is if you go to the website, go to the user's guide, there's some really good stuff about notes. And I've kind of gone through some of these things as I was handicapping this race, but there's a list of positives, things that you want to use to upgrade horses, looking at notes, and that's in the user's guide. And then also, we want the negatives too, right? So these are things you want to be looking for in notes. And again, with the keywords, these things really kind of pop for you. Oh, the other thing I wanted to do too is just go back to the plots now, that we looked at the 7. And you can see the 7 plots very forwardly on the standard, good, solid stalking plot on the surface and distance. So, this wouldn't hurt my opinion of the 7. Okay, that's really, again, that was my goal in coming back to the plot afterwards. So that's it. Check us out at OptixEQ.com. Like us on YouTube if you like this video, you want to see others like this. And thanks for supporting us. And that's it.